Wow, I have to tell you, this was the second time I saw the film, and the end credits are so wonderful too, because they begin to answer some of the questions that I'm sure so many of you had, I know I have, which is just simply, my God, how did you make this film? It is just extraordinary. Such powerful imagery and just an extraordinary approach to storytelling. But I did have to say there were a couple times where I thought, how did they ever get those shots? So first of all, I don't know that Sarah and Adam are a husband and wife filmmaking team, and the story behind the making of this film, I think, might be as interesting as the film itself. So I don't know who to start with, but can you tell us a little bit about the 8-year process of making this film and where it started? Maybe starting with Sarah.
Adam and I have been working in the Arctic for over a decade, collecting images. And we started with the walrus, as Adam was explaining earlier, and found that it wouldn't suck our brains out. In fact, it was an incredibly devoted animal, as you could see on the screen today, devoted to its babies and devoted to its family. And we just thought that this was an incredible thing to see such commitment in these animals. And in fact, it's a 3-year commitment that the mother will take care of its little calf. And then we realized that the polar bear also had a 3-year commitment to its cub. And so, and yet it was a single mom. She's got to do it on her own. The walrus has a whole herd to bring up the little calf. And we saw such wonderful parallel stories that we thought that we could tell together, showing these two animals. And then throughout our 10 years in the Arctic, we started seeing these animals come together. Science really told us at the very beginning of our Arctic experience that walrus and polar bear do not encounter one another. They don't live with one another. But as we started to film them throughout the years, we started to see the polar bear going close to walruses and starting to hunt them. And today, this occurrence is happening predictably every single year. And so this creates such great drama and concern for us about how these animals are adapting and what's going to happen to them in the future.
This film takes a completely different approach to documentary storytelling in terms of the anthropomorphizing Sila and Nanu. At what point in the creation of this film did you decide to sort of tell this story in this way? Because it makes it a truly dramatic story. We're all in there with these characters, and it's life or death battles. And yet these are, and I also think of you shooting this film and thinking, my God, these are wild animals. They're dangerous animals, and we're all kind of feeling heartfelt for them. At what point did you decide to approach the story in this way?
I think it was very important that our audience was attached to not walruses in general and polar bears, but really a character. I think that's how you grip people in a story, and you can take them along on a real journey. And then equally with the cinematography, early on in my career, I was trained as an underwater cameraman, and the water underwater, it's 800 times denser than in air. And so everything has to be with a wide-angle lens and very close. And so through that experience, I learned we wanted to try to do that on the surface too, is really take the audience and get them very intimate and right up close. Remove this glass wall that you see in an aquarium or in a zoo, and take you on a ride right beside the animal as if you're in that animal's head. And that's sort of how the shooting was always about, how to get close and how to be intimate with these animals.
And then in the edit room, we decided that we really like to focus on the milestones of the animals, when they, were first born, when they first learned how to hunt, when, they had to be cast off from their moms. These are milestones, dramatic points that we wanted to really dramatize and show that these milestones in these animals' lives are actually very similar to our own milestones, and everyone can certainly relate to them.
I also think the music actually is really extraordinary. The mix of an orchestral score and these sort of wonderful music, some of them from my teenage years, I have to say. How did you, and I think it's changed, the previous cut I saw was different, and so this was really great. I mean, they're just these wonderful moments. Who did you work with in terms of music, and how were those decisions made?
The composer on this film was a man by the name of Joby Talbot. And I think, one thing about when you take people on a ride in the wild is you really want them to experience the environment, and that has a lot to do with the natural sounds. And so often scores can maybe be a little bit too heavy, or they can be overpowering in wildlife films where you don't actually get to hear what the animals sound like and feel what it's like to be there as if you were 3,000 miles north of where we are now. So what we like about Joby Talbot's score is it really is, at times, it kind of drops into the background and allows the animals and the images to come to the forefront, and that allowed us to make a really great sound design with the animals. The cast-off comes to mind when the mother bear is really telling her Nanu that she's got to leave the home, and we really focused there on the sounds, the voices, as if they were, that you would recognize that mother's voice every time we went back to her. So that's what I think is strong about Joby's score. And then when we need emotion, he would come in with a melody and would grab you and then make you feel.
The songs were an attempt to have fun in some places in the movie. It's a pretty heavy movie, so we all wanted to lighten the movie up and let everyone see how much fun and playfulness the animals have up in the Arctic. So.
Last summer's big documentary was An Inconvenient Truth, and there was a huge outreach and campaign in terms of raising awareness about global warming. This film's very different. It engages you on a very emotional level with the story, but it clearly has a message as well. What can we expect in terms of the release of this film and kind of outreach and marketing and using it as an educational tool?
Well, I think that it's going to be in the schools quite a lot. And with Inconvenient Truth, a wonderful school program was introduced by Paramount Vantage, who distributed that same film. And they were able to put a lot of materials through the schools. So we're hoping for the same thing. So.
And equally, at the end of the movie, if you saw, there was a website that came up, so people can go to that website and find out more information. And we thought it was really important to be responsible and not just inspire people, and then at the end of the movie have them go, okay, well, how do we get involved? What do we do next? And so that was the reason that we thought very hard about, learn more, take action, and then to go to the website so they can find out more information.